Hello, everyone. This is Tammy Fisher within the Doll World, and I'm here today with my wonderful co-host, Miss Georgette Taylor.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Miss Georgette. And today we are honored to have the award-winning artist, Valerie Gladstone, who is the owner of Brooklyn Dollworks. Thank you, Miss Valerie Gladstone, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're definitely honored. So we're going to start where we normally start, and that is, please tell us your doll journey, how it began, and how you ended up here with us today.
About 20 years ago, I started making dolls just for family and friends, like little soft things, just that I could give a gift rather than go to the store and buying something. And I happened on a magazine called Art Doll Quarterly. Had never seen it before, and on the cover was a piece that was just amazing, and found out the artist's name was this guy called E.J. Taylor. I'm like, well, what is this? What is an art doll? I have no idea, but I want to do that. I want to do something like that. I started researching into what an art doll was, and I'm not a girly girl. I didn't grow up with dolls. I didn't play with dolls. I was a tomboy. You know, I was getting my knees and playing baseball. So I don't come at it as a little girl who plays dress up and all of that. And being that my life has been in the theater most of my life, I've trained as a costume designer, hair and makeup designer. I have such a varied amount of skills. Like I knit, I crochet, I dye, I bead, I sculpt, I do anything my hands can do. I needed somewhere I could put everything together in one place. I needed a craft where I could use all of my varied passions and skills and hobbies. And it ended up being this thing called art dolls. And that led me to a man called Floyd Bell.
Oh,
Yes.
you know, Mr. Floyd, Mr. Bell.
I went to, someone said, you need to go to a doll show. I'm like, what's a doll show? So my first doll show was actually in Harlem at St. Nick's Church, which is one of the biggest churches in New York.
Yes.
And I presented what I had. I had 7 pieces done. And one of the ladies there who bought one of my very first pieces said, there's this guy called Floyd Bell. You should reach out to him and see where you should go with this. You don't belong here in this church. You belong out in the world. So I contacted Floyd Bell. He put me onto what's called the Quinlan show, which is no more now. So I did my first show in 2012 for the Quinlan.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Bell happened to be there. And he led me on to the world of art dolls. He being the only Black male art doll artist out there that I know of, who happens to work in wood, of all things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And was just a great mentor and guide for me into the art doll world. And I just kept at it. Every time I would show something, I'd get a criticism about it, good or bad, and just kept trying to keep my journey to me and not be veered off into other people's journeys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The last Quinlan show, I met up, my sister was with me, and Jack Johnson, who is the founder of Professional Doll Artists Guild, was doing a video presentation and was having problems with his video. My sister is in tech, so she helped him out with his presentation, got him the right tables, got him hooked up with the computer, got it to show on the big screen, no problem, what she does. And he's like, well, I want to give you something. And my sister said, well, look at my sister's work.
Oh,
Nice.
that's very nice.
And he's like, well, why hasn't she applied to the guild before? I'm not a joiner. You know, I'm not really, got kicked out of Girl Scouts. I'm a solo person. So my sister said, you just join. He's offering this to you, just join. And that's how I ended up here.
Okay. That's a beautiful story. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
That those two really important people came into your life. That's really
Yes.
interesting. Floyd
Yes.
and
Yes.
John. Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And it's this whole thing that if you open yourself up to the possibility, something is going to walk in.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's true. That is true. I believe in
Definitely.
that.
So you said you have a background in theater.
Yes.
And so that background in theater, how does that impact your dolls?
It impacts my dolls in a way that is, I come at it from a storytelling point of view.
Okay.
Theater, costume design, all comes from a storytelling point of view. In theater, you have a script, you have the characters. How do you dress these characters in the script? What's their background story? How old are they? How young are they? Where do they live? Are they rich? Are they poor? And all of that knowledge is ingrained in me. And also, I love research. I love to find out more about whatever topic it is.
Mhm.
You know, if I could be a librarian, I probably would be a research fellow. I like to know the history of things, because if we don't know the history, you know, people make it up for you.
Yes.
If you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. Know what your history is.
Mhm.
And a lot of my pieces are based on either a historic fact or an event. Or
Mhm.
so my costuming, I try to make it, if I'm doing it for an event, it has to be as accurate as I can make it.
Mhm.
So, and I make all of what I can make. If I could make my own thread, I would make my own thread. I make all my own props. I make all the costuming. I'll dye the fabric. I'll knit the sweaters. I will weave the fabric for the skirt. I will
Mhm.
do the beading myself. So
Wow.
I try not to buy anything that goes into it unless I
Mhm.
physically can.
Okay. Okay.
make it.
So
That's a lot of
utilize,
dedication.
yeah, really. So you utilize materials that are around you, as
Mhm.
opposed to go out shopping for materials. Is that what you're saying?
I do for the basic stuff, but it's always altered in a different way. Never.
Okay.
I went to Michael's, bought a piece of fabric, and there it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
it's usually a base with something else.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. I see.
So you also said that you weave fabric too?
I can weave. Yep. I can dye. I can spin. I taught myself how to spin fabric, spin yarn
Mm-hmm.
from fleece, to wash the
Wow.
fleece, to card the fleece, to make the roving, to make the yarn. That way I can make it any size, any color I need to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I
Have
took
more
time and
control over
learned
that.
more control over everything. And the more, you know, the more things you know, the more tools in your toolbox that you can use to express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I took
Yeah.
time and learned how to marble. It's usually just done on paper, and it was only done in Italy in 1700.
Okay.
And no one does marble anymore. So I took that technique and did it on fabric.
Wow.
So I took
Okay.
the time to learn that so that I could use it in my work. So if I need to have something marbled, I know how.
Mm-hmm. You know how to do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of dedication.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long does it take for you to do a doll then?
It's months, 6 months. I do my major pieces. I do small work in between.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That would take a week to do, but my
Okay.
major work takes quite a long time.
Okay.
Can you
How many dolls do
repeat?
you make in a year?
2, 3 major pieces. Smaller works I can do 4 or 5. I worked for Dance Theater of Harlem for many, many years. And as a way of giving back to the company, I make these tiny dancers. And the proceeds go to Dance Theater of Harlem. So in between big
Oh,
things,
that's
I
beautiful.
always
Yeah,
have
that is
time to
beautiful.
make up a couple of tiny dancers so that I can have something to sell for DTH.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's beautiful.
Now I know you work in mixed media. A lot of your stuff is mixed media. What materials do you use the most when you're creating your dolls?
I use the most, polymer clay I use the most.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Because it's quick, it's easy, it's not messy.
Mm.
It's also reasonably priced enough so that if something goes wrong or breaks, I'm
Mhm.
not stressed out that I've invested so much money into it and now I've got to start over.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. It is easy to sculpt with. As
Easy to
well.
sculpt
Yeah.
with. I use Super Sculpty regular. I mix all my own colors. I don't
Oh,
buy
okay.
their skin tones because skin tones are so varied.
Mhm.
For like, if it has to stand, the legs may be made out of firm, which is a gray Super Sculpty,
Okay.
and then I'll paint it. But other than that,
Mhm.
I do some paper clay work. It's just more,
Mhm.
for me, it's more tedious and time consuming.
Oh, okay. All right.
Especially how I have to paint the darker skin tones,
Mhm.
which is why if you look at most paper clay artists, they're very pale about they use the white of the clay
Yeah, it
Mhm.
makes
because
sense.
again,
Has
any
something.
kind of the any kind of the skin tone is labor intensive.
Mhm. Also, does it take it longer to dry? I don't know. Did somebody
It
mention
does.
that before? It
It
takes
does.
longer to
Yeah.
dry or something like
Mhm.
that if you're
Yep.
using a darker tone, right? Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
So it
From the-
takes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very time intensive.
Yeah, I did hear that before. I
Yeah.
remember who said that. I know we had somebody on the show and they were talking about um, the different the colors that they use and how long it would take to dry or cure or something like that, depending on
Yeah.
how dark you make the
Yes.
the
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the paints I use on my paper clay, I did end up years later taking a workshop with E.J. Taylor, who is paper clay's master. And he uses an oil paint to paint.
Mm-hmm.
I use a heat set oil paint to paint, which is even more labor intensive
Wow.
because the layers are just super duper thin, and then they have to be heat set, and it's super thin, heat set,
Mhm.
so it's just much more labor intensive.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Yeah,
A
but
lot
it's
of work.
beautiful work though. It's beautiful
thank
work.
you.
Yeah, yes.
Thank
And
you.
product is amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I think your products are also very powerful. Like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
you can look at them and tell that you spent a lot of time
Mhm.
doing the research and
Yes.
those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yep.
very powerful.
Thank you.
We interviewed someone last week who talked about wanting to do dolls of color, and she said that she has chosen to not do them because she hasn't been able to work with the clay to get it blended to make the skin tones that she would like. So apparently that in itself is,
Yeah.
a skill
It's
because
good. Yeah. It's
she said it was
color
very
theory.
difficult.
Yeah. Color theory.
Yes.
Goes back to my design training.
Mm-hmm.
Red and yellow don't always make orange.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work with it. You have to know. You also have to. I have seen skin tones my entire life, so it's not a new concept for me to try to make the skin tones
Mm-hmm.
that I've never seen because I am a skin tone.
Right.
I don't want to sound flippant or about it, but
No, I
my world
understand.
is
Yeah, we
skin
understand
tone.
that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
as an artist, you're always making a self-portrait.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I make is some sort of a reflection on me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I happen to be a person of color.
Yeah.
Right. And I think too that always makes you a lot more aware of the skin tones and of the variations and
Yes.
of the
Mhm.
the undertones that we have. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
makes you more aware of that because you're just so used to
Yeah.
you're used and that's who you are and the people that
Right.
majority of people around you that have
Yeah,
such
I was
Mhm.
gonna
very
say.
varied colors, you know what I mean, within that,
Right,
you know,
right.
Yeah.
within that culture. So
Right.
it's just something that you're
Yes.
normally
Right.
aware of.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not that others can't. I don't do Asian dolls
Right.
because I don't think it would be authentic to me and how I work and what I want to express.
Mm-hmm.
If there was something in particular where I thought she has to be a different ethnicity, then I would do the research and I would find out where that is within me,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah,
that
that
makes a
makes
lot of
sense.
sense.
Oh, I think I'll make a kabuki doll. For me, it's not authentic.
Mhm.
And it's going to come off looking false.
Mhm.
I made a couple of fairy dolls years ago when everyone was on a big fairy kick. I made them, I showed them once, and they have been in a box set. It was just
Wow.
not authentic to me.
Mhm.
Are
Okay.
they nice pieces? Yeah, they're nice, but it's just not me.
Right.
It just doesn't feel authentic. It's like, oh, I'm trying to do something that everybody else is doing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. And there's power in that too. And as we have interviewed, especially people of color, that is something that has come up. And we interviewed a Japanese lady
Mhm.
who
Mhm.
lives in Harlem, and she and her husband adopted a African American child, or her son is African American, and she makes these African American dolls, and she made them because she said, I could see that there were these children who I'm with all the time who didn't have dolls that look like them. And so that need in her community and that need for her son to be able to see himself led to her creating
Right.
dolls. So it goes back to that
Mhm.
there has to be some type of a connection. So that makes
Yes,
sense.
That makes
Yes.
that
sense.
makes
Right.
sense. Yes,
Exactly. Right.
absolutely,
Yes.
Right.
absolutely.
So
Yes.
it wasn't a thing that was authentic to her in the sense that that's who she was, but it was authentic
But
to her, and that's what
because
she felt, right? And
Yeah,
that's
to her
her
yeah, that's
experience.
right,
what
to her
that
experience,
was her
right?
experience. That's what she's living very closely with. So she had to
Yes.
express that
Yes.
Yes.
and make it authentic for her.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely.
So I can
Absolutely.
understand. I can understand how you work that way, because just looking at your
Mhm.
dolls say that they're authentic. I know it's hard to. It's interesting to say that, but they do. They speak to authenticity of who
Mhm.
you
Right.
are as an artist.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, yeah.
Also speak to our history, and you were talking about
yes.
that before. You need to know your history. So they are powerful representations of our history and of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I show my work at shows like the Quinlan show, it stands out, good or bad, but I'm not doing it to be the prettiest girl on the block or the most
Mhm.
popular. I'm doing it as an artist and not as a doll maker,
Mhm.
which it's a hard little platform to stand on. That it's called art doll,
Mhm.
and I think some of us are artists and some of us are doll makers.
That's
That's
interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I've not had anyone, we've not interviewed anyone who has spoken about that. So what's the difference there?
I think the difference is that I try to speak a larger language and reach a larger what's the word? A larger field than just making a pretty doll in a pretty dress.
Okay, so you see yourself as a doll artist, not a doll maker.
Right.
Would you
Because the
describe
art
yourself?
comes first.
Okay, I was going to say, would you describe yourself as a artist who makes dolls? Is that a more accurate way of describing
Yeah,
you?
I think I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so then if that's how you see yourself, do you do art in other forms other than
Yeah.
making dolls?
Yep. I do. I paint. I'm a watercolor artist also. I sculpt. And my
Portrait?
second degree is in photography. So,
Okay.
so I just happened into the art doll world.
Okay.
I was going to ask you that because when you were talking earlier about your journey, you mentioned that you weren't really into dolls, right? It wasn't like you
Mhm.
played with dolls. It
Right.
wasn't like that's what you had and you thought, oh, I need a doll that looks like this or whatever. So I was really curious to how did that transition into creating dolls out of your art? How did that transition happen for you? And because the majority of things that we see on your site are art dolls, so how did that become something that you really wanted to do in that medium, since that dolls weren't something that you really thought about before?
I think it was that initial picture of E.J. Taylor's work that was more than just a doll. It was a woman who had a whole story.
Mhm.
Mm. Okay.
and that the costuming was so beautiful that I was like, I could make small costumes and put them on figures. I want to learn how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And
that's what led it over.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
But the interesting thing is that you came again from that perspective of creating outfits, creating, right, you know, and you said, oh, I could put that on a doll, and then eventually you created the dolls for that.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. My costuming has always been
Yes.
better than my sculpting, as most of the critics would say.
Okay.
Oh, no.
They're like, costumes are beautiful, but the face, well,
I like your faces too.
Yes, I like your
So
faces.
I don't know there. Then they all work together.
Yeah, it
So,
does. They all work
yeah.
together, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we interviewed Byron Lars not long ago, and Byron was
Love
talking
him,
to
yeah.
us. Yeah, he's a lovely man.
Yeah.
And he was talking to us about his journey with making clothing for dolls and how it's significantly harder to make the little outfits than it is to make them for people, and how they have to fit the body differently. You don't have as much play.
Yeah.
If it's off just a little bit, your outfit is a mess. You know, it can be,
And
can be
even the
really bad.
materials of the designs of the materials, designs and the materials could be so much more overpowering for the doll because because of the size. So
Yeah,
or
the
the
proportions
thickness.
of it. Yeah, the proportions or the thickness of the fabric.
Yeah.
Like one of the big tricks I learned was that to do, my one doll has a leather jacket on, and regular people leather doesn't work. So I had to go find glove leather, the very thinnest stuff that they make gloves out of, and use that leather to make the jacket.
Okay.
Because it was softer, it was thinner to make it, you know, a leather jacket that's this big.
Okay.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, of course.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There's just so many details that go into doll making that those of us who are on the outside don't think about or don't see. So just like this whole discussion about fabric is fascinating to me. And we spoke to someone who's a wig maker, and he spoke about how the different fibers impact how the hair on that doll looks and performs, and that was just amazing because again, for those of us who are buying dolls, it's one of those things that I don't know the difference between saran and non-saran, and so yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, you learn it pretty quickly that regular human hair doesn't work on the scale you're working on. So you figure out what else there is, whether you use synthetic or I use mohair or alpaca. I have a woman in Iowa, Nebraska, one of those two states, who has a mohair farm. So whenever she has stuff, she's about to share her goats, she calls me.
That's cool.
Because the actual fibers are much thinner, and I can dye it to whatever color I need to have it.
Yeah, you got a lot of dedication there.
A lot of dedication. So you do, I know you do one of a kind. Do you do, and how much commission work do you do? Is that the bulk of your work?
No, about half and half.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will only accept a commission from someone who's already bought a piece and is familiar with the work. If you've not experienced my work, I'm not going to accept a commission.
Okay. And why is that?
Because you have to know how I work and what the pieces mean to you and to me to get the most out of a commission.
Okay.
That's interesting. I never thought about it like that. You know, I don't think anybody's ever said that before.
Yeah. I know it sounds like you're turning down money, but I can't work. I just have not been able to work the other way.
Okay.
Yeah. Vanessa spoke a bit about that, about when she makes a doll, she has a list of people who want dolls from her, and she'll show them the picture. And if it doesn't work for that person, she takes it to the next person. She says her theory is that every doll is made for somebody. There's like this connection between and that connection has to be in place for everything to come together. And we've seen that with Volks. Volks has a ceremony where you can go and have a ceremony where the doll becomes like part of your family. There's this whole big ceremony that they do in Japan, and anybody who has one of their dolls can come to Japan. And their theory is that all of the dolls become family members.
Yeah, like family, right?
Yeah. So we've seen it expressed by a number of different people. Each one is different, but it's that connection needs to occur. Yes.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's especially with one of a kind, because they're not disposable. You know, you can't just walk into a toy store and buy another one, or go on eBay and research. You know, I need that Barbie from 1972, and there's 100 of them out there.
So when you sell dolls, are they sewn into their clothes, or can you take their clothes off? Okay.
Yes, no.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question then. Do you make different outfits for them? Okay.
No, just as is. Yeah, I am. During the pandemic, I have a project that I about 3 years old now, called Neighborly Dolls, which is a soft play doll. It's our first play doll. And like 3 years ago, I came up with her. I kept working on her, and then decided to submit her to the Smithsonian for the gift shop.
Wow.
And of course, the pandemic happened. So they wrote me a very nice letter back saying, now it's not the time, but let us know in the future, and we'll review this again. So she's called Neighborly. She comes in 3 different skin tones, and she came out of me thinking that people, it's just be nicer to each other. Just know who's next door to you. Just say hi to the people in the hallway.
Right.
And then she'd be like city specific. So there's New York. Right now there's just New York and DC.
Okay.
And explore your neighborhood. My name is this, and this is where I live in New York, and this is part of the history of New York. So she's still in the works also. So she'll be a regular play doll to buy.
Okay. So they are play line dolls.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are they?
What are they made out of?
Bodies made from?
They're soft folk. She has a hard mask that has a fabric over.
Okay.
And the rest of her is soft cloth dolls.
So they're one of a kind because you make each one individually?
Right, but they're each made, but they're right.
Okay.
But they'll be they've been already certified and tested to sell as a play doll.
Okay. I like that.
I like the little detail.
And so she comes with a little backpack and a little book that talks about her neighborhood.
Nice.
Cool.
And how important it is to be good neighbors.
Neighborly.
Yes.
So
I love it.
That certification process? What is it?
You have to send it off to a government agency. They take it apart and test each piece to see how if it passes for a stress test or for things that could choke a child, or if it's poisonous, and they test all of the pieces and say yes, it passes.
Okay.
There we go again with something else.
I know, something new, right? That we didn't know about.
Talked about that before. I knew that there were,
well, they have to get tested. Yeah.
But I didn't know. I didn't know exactly how that was done.
Yeah, the product has to be sent and tested.
Yeah, I like it. I like her. She's cute.
I do too. So how many of those do you plan on making a year?
12.
Okay.
Wow.
And each one will be for a different city, or you'll like make 3 for New York?
There'll be like 6 New York, 6 DC.
Okay.
To start.
Okay.
Okay, and then your plan is to do different cities is it
Mhm.
around the world or just the US?
Just U.S.
Okay,
U.S.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
that is very cool.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
excited
pretty
about
neat.
that.
I like that too. That's a great idea.
Yep. And I figured
Like
the
a-
Smithsonian Museum of African American would be the first place I'd try just for it. So.
Mhm.
That's very cool. And
Yeah.
so then when you have the dolls made, like, so if you
Mhm.
did a doll for Albuquerque, Santa Fe, would that doll be sold here or would it be sold at the Smithsonian or how would someone purchase it?
What it would be is I would hook up with a museum there,
Okay,
and it would
Okay.
be through that museum shop.
Okay,
okay,
I see what you're saying.
okay,
So if you
okay,
did
that's
one
okay,
for Atlanta, then
okay,
It would be at
at the Atlanta Museum somewhere
museum,
downtown.
right? Yeah, one of
okay.
those. Yeah,
And you're
yeah.
only making
That way,
6 for the museum?
that's what I can do now.
Okay.
So I have to start where I can start.
No,
Yeah.
we
Yeah, because if you
understand
more
that.
than that, you probably have to hire someone.
Yeah,
Isn't
Yeah.
that get into all
right.
of that?
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's really cool. I love that idea
I do
of
too.
having that doll and, talking about friendliness and, your neighborhood and your, neighbors and how to connect with them. That's really, I love it. I think it's great because
Mhm.
well, we know we need it.
I was gonna say it certainly is
Right.
It
timely.
certainly is needed.
Right. Yep.
It certainly is. So we did talk a little bit about the pandemic, and a lot of times we've been speaking to people, especially during these last months and last year about the pandemic. So how has that affected you in the dolls that you not just create, but in selling the dolls or showcasing the dolls? How has the pandemic affected your business and your
The
art?
pandemic, yeah, it was really tough. It was really hard. I'm also a union member, so um, I had to, when the whole thing happened, I had to make sure that our membership was fine.
Mhm.
And then once we got used to that, we were all feeling okay. And then the George Floyd happened, and then we were back up my emotions were back up again.
Mhm.
And then it leveled down a little bit, and then something came out of the White House, and I was back up again. And it was
Yeah.
this emotional roller coaster for a year and a half.
Mhm.
And during that time, I found it really hard to just sit and create and not be mad and angry or disillusioned. And I spent a lot of the time doing things that I knew I could complete. I knew because I think it was a control thing. But the thing that happened with the business is that a lot of my more political work sold.
Mhm.
My revolutionary sold, my power to the people sold, all of my vote dolls sold. So everything I had that was slightly political was snatched up by all my collectors. And I
Mhm.
thought that was really interesting.
Mhm.
I was like, this is amazing that I've had some of these pieces for like 4 or 5 years with no interest. And all of a sudden, we're in the middle of a pandemic with the world erupting. Now they all sold.
Mhm.
Wow.
And I was like, I guess I was doing the right thing. Creating the pieces wasn't just me being radical, that there was meaning behind it. And now everyone else sees it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for
Mm.
time.
Yep.
And so like with Georgette and the dolls that they made, I think they were so far ahead of the time that people, they were saying, oh, I don't want a fat doll because there are these plus size dolls. And then today,
Today.
plus size dolls are like, oh, and people are wanting her
Right.
dolls. They made them 20
Mhm.
years ago, but there's this,
Yeah.
people keep asking for them. And I think that that's the same thing. I mean, we see history changing. We see
Mhm.
people moving on to different sides. And right now, I like the term you used, erupting,
Mhm.
because that is what is happening. There's
Right.
these eruptions that are occurring. And I
Mhm.
think that those, as we experience those eruptions, we want to grab hold of things that are meaningful to us, and then they become historically significant too.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you know, something that you bought that said "Power to the People" in 1982, that's a nice thing to buy. But if you bought that during the 60s or the 50s or now, when there's these big Black Lives Matter movements going on,
Mhm.
they become historically.
They become much more significant.
It's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And even in the lives of just, like I said, beyond the political part of that, or it's just something that is so much in your face right now. And so,
Mhm.
and I think it's at a time where just the average person has to is confronted with it all the time.
Mhm.
So it's something that, you know, that becomes more aware. You're more aware now of the situation. And like, you know, Tammy said, this, your dolls is just made that much more, just connected them a lot more to the things that are happening. Because I mean, in reality, we know it happens, right? We know it still continues to happen, but because now it's been so much more in our face, the average everyday person, honestly, knows that it's happening and is aware that it's happening much, much more. And I think that's what made your dolls so much more, that resonated with people so much more now, you know? And it's true what Tammy said, that sometimes things are just not, when you created them, you understood the reason behind them, but nobody else really related to that, because the things that were happening, you know, the things that were happening didn't seem to be as important.
Right.
You know, they knew it was happening, but it's like, oh, it's
Yeah,
not in
but-
my face. I
Mhm.
cannot relate to that. But now you have to relate to it.
Mhm.
Right.
Have to see it, you know. And so yeah, because I mean, I think all your figures bring, like, you know, Tammy said, they are really powerful and they just resonate so much history and so many feelings behind all the pieces that you create. You know, when I look at them, I'm just, it's a feeling that I get, like I can connect with these people, regardless of
Mhm.
whether I know them. I can connect with that, you know, that ballerina with the kids watching her. I can connect, you know what I mean? And instead of it just being a doll about a ballerina with children, to me, it's
Right.
so much more. It's a Black ballerina with these Black children watching her and feeling pride in that. You know, it's just a whole different
Right.
story behind their dolls. And so,
Mhm.
yeah,
Thank
stories.
you.
Yeah, beautiful
Thank
stories with
you.
your dolls. You can really feel that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. We thank you for, you know, for creating this beautiful artwork in your art dolls.
That's one of the things that we see in the doll world, and how the doll world is so much more than play toys. And so we're looking at your dolls or your art,
Mm-hmm.
and your art is expressing history and it's expressing the current feelings and tensions of the world, and that's important.
Yeah.
And so it's like we see the doll world expanding, and that's one of our goals for in the doll world, is it's not all about toys. It's not all
Right.
about
Right.
collecting beautiful
Exactly.
dolls.
Right.
It's like
all
back in the
other
day
things
when
that
you
happen.
first saw the Daddy Long Legs. Remember Daddy
Yes.
Long Legs? When I first saw those, I was like, those are great. I mean, I'd buy one of those.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. We had Karen on the show. Did you see her? She was on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really
Yeah.
good.
I was like,
Really,
you know,
yeah. So the other thing we usually ask people, if you are an artist, and we know a lot of people want to become artists, and so what we like to ask the people that are creating the amazing art that they're creating is what you do, does that sustain you financially? Is it something that you do, you know, that you can do and just make a living out of?
At this point, no, it does
Okay.
not sustain me financially.
Okay. All right.
I do have a regular career. I'm a hairdresser in the entertainment field. I work in films and TV as my regular job. But it's enough. It pays the rent on my studio because I have a separate studio from my home. So it's enough to pay for the rent of the studio and to buy supplies.
Okay, so it sustains your art. That's what happens. It sustains the art that you're creating.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But not my whole life.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good too, though. She said, I know, I'm a New Yorker. That's why I don't live there now.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when we spoke to Nick and Marie from Nini Momo, when we asked them this question, they were saying, well, maybe if we live someplace else, because
Right.
Because New York is so expensive. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it does sustain your art, and I think that's good too,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't, yeah, you don't want to be doing that and trying to, siphon money from this area just to sustain what it is that you're passionate about
Really,
doing.
yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
good. I'm glad to hear
Right.
that, because
Mhm.
a lot of people we talk to, they want to be artists, and a lot of their family members or people that they even, surround themselves with don't believe that, doing art is something that can create a career for you and,
Mm.
and make money for you. So we always like to
Yeah.
ask the artists that we speak to,
Yeah.
is that something that,
Yeah.
that can happen for them? So
Mhm.
Mhm.
thank you
Oh,
for
yeah,
sharing that.
absolutely. I think a lot of that is changing, especially in visual art.
Mhm.
Like the gaming industry is
Oh
a
yeah.
huge employer of visual artists, sketchers,
Mhm.
drawers. If you just like painting trees in the gaming world, you can make a really good living as an artist painting trees for a video game, not video, but
Mhm.
regular games.
Right.
Mhm.
It's huge, huge
Wow.
industry. Yeah, as a concept artist, as a character designer, and just
Mhm.
design, characters, or you can be a background artist and just
Mhm.
design backgrounds of things, clouds and mountains. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
they make
Wow.
a really good living.
I never thought about that.
So I see you've got dolls there behind you. Do you have anything that you want to share with us in particular?
I can show you the paper clay. This is cheese paper clay. And as I was saying about how it takes many more hours to paint a face in paper clay if you're going to do a skin tone this dark.
Mhm.
Okay.
Upon
Sure.
layer upon layer upon layer of
Mhm.
paper of oil paint
Oh, oil
Oh,
to
paint.
get the
Okay.
skin tone this dark. And
Okay.
it's the same clay as this.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're the exact same clay. And then I had to get this skin tone
Wow.
Okay.
and make it look alive and not
Yes.
dead brown.
Right.
Yes.
But they're,
Right.
but they're,
Yeah.
they're both paper clay.
And paper clay is basically paper mache.
Yes, it's a refined paper mache that's mixed with a porcelain substance and
Okay.
glue.
Okay.
So how did it get the smoothness? Is it something that happens when you put it together, or do you have to sand it to get
You
there?
have to sand it and do a varnishing with a soft
Okay.
towel to
Okay.
smooth out anything else because it's only as far as sandpaper will go.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then it's just like you with a little soft cloth, you have to rub to get it completely smooth.
Wow. Now,
And
because it's paper clay, is it very fragile?
yes,
Okay.
and it will mix and all of the color will go back to white. So
Oh.
it is a little
Oh,
more fragile.
wow. Oh, wow. I didn't know
Mhm.
that.
And this is one of the tiny dancers.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So what's this made of?
This is all polymer,
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Follow
including all the little. Here's my camera. Here's my
the
camera.
other way. Yep.
The shoes.
Oh, yes. You
Okay.
pointed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
and they're all polymer because they're also a little stronger. It's a
Mm-hmm.
stronger clay.
Okay. Tiny dancers. How big are they?
Okay.
How big are the tiny dancers?
They're like 10 inches.
Okay.
They're not much bigger than that ever.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. 10 inches.
And those are the ones that you sell as a
For the dance
fundraiser.
theater.
The fundraiser for Dance Theater Harlem.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah. I worked with them for many, many years.
Are you still working with them?
No, I haven't for a while.
Okay.
But
But you're still supporting their
yeah,
efforts.
absolutely.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
Are you still with the guild? Or you still work with the guild?
I am,
right?
yeah.
With the PD Man
Um,
Guild?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not as involved in any of their other things except for the convention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And how long have you been with it? Because you were with it with the original founder.
Only because I ran into him. I'm still in my second year with them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Because
okay.
it was 3 years ago that he was at the Quinlan show.
Okay. I thought that you had a
Oh,
longer
okay.
And this
history
is
with
only,
him.
yeah, it's only my
Okay.
second year. Yeah.
So a lot of has happened with you as a doll artist in the last 2, 3 years.
Yeah, building up to this, yeah. I launched the company in 2012
Okay.
is when I launched Brooklyn Dollworks. And it's just been a steady growth till this
Okay.
point.
How long ago were you doing the art dolls before you transitioned over into, I guess, being part of a guild, or where you started making more dolls?
In 2012, I launched Brooklyn Dollworks and did
Mhm.
my first show in Harlem. And then a couple of years before that, I started making art dolls. 2012 when we started the company.
Nice.
Okay.
And I did the show in Harlem, and then I did the show, Lincoln Center Fine Craft Show. I did that year. The next year, I did the Brooklyn Museum Fine Craft Show.
Have you thought of doing any, and you may have already, doing any like videos or something where you share information about art dolls or your process or any of those kinds of things?
Not seriously, no.
Okay. Because your story is very fascinating. So
Yes,
I
it's
think
just so
you have a
time
lot to share.
intensive to do videos. I do
Yeah.
like little short ones,
Okay.
like
No,
as you know, like little short studio visits for shows, or like a little demonstration for things, but not anything major. I thought I was gonna like launch this YouTube channel, but like that takes way too much work. I can't. Oh my God. And to have it look good, oh my goodness. There's so many bad YouTubes out there.
Yes, and we don't want to be one of them. So
We're
No,
trying.
you're not. Yeah,
We try.
you're not. You're professional.
Thank you.
But to get to, I was like, no, I can't spend the time to do that.
She needs to spend her time making her art dolls, you know?
Right.
Exactly.
Stay in the space that gives you the most joy. Trust me.
Yeah.
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 That'd be a no, Tammy.
You know?
I do want to say I do love your dolls. I think you have amazing
Mhm.
dolls, and I love the artwork that you have on them, and the costumes, and just the overall aesthetic of
Mhm.
of your dolls. So
Mhm.
Thank
And
you.
each one does come off as a story.
yes,
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
you have been very successful in pulling that off.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting as a writer, to look at other forms of art and see that they work so well in staring and telling stories. It's not that you just have to have the word there,
Mhm.
or the words. You
Mhm.
can show just as much story in a painting, or in your case, an art doll, or there are all these different forms of expressing yourself, and you can use each of them successfully.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I always encourage other new art doll artists to get that story in there. Why are you
Mhm.
making it?
Mhm.
Why, what is she? Is she young? Is she old? Is she rich? Is she poor? Where does she live? Why is she
Mhm.
wearing that dress? Where is she going? Is she going to the market, or is she, going to the opera? If you don't know it, then she's not going to know it.
Mhm. And then the people who are looking at it are not going to know what you're
I'm
doing.
not going to know it.
They have
Right.
no idea what that doll's supposed to mean.
Right. And they don't say, oh, it's the person looking at its interpretation. It doesn't matter what their interpretation is. It's your interpretation that matters. You can't give them the whole story, but you've got to give them something that will speak to them. And then they can fill in the rest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what it is, there's all going to be, in my opinion, it's just going to be mediocre and have nothing to say. You got to tell it what it is.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that is right, because there'd be no
Yeah.
intention behind it. If you have no
Right,
intention,
exactly.
that's missing.
It's like, and you can see it. You can see it in actors all the time. You watch a movie, you can tell which actors know who that character is, and which actors are just play acting.
Mhm.
You know, You know, the great ones, Viola Davis knows who all her characters are.
Hmm.
That's the truth.
Yes, she does.
You know, she knows how old they are. She knows who their great aunt was. She knows why she's wearing that pair of shoes that day.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I tell you, boy, these interviews.
Yeah.
You know, I love them because, you know, you get to see so many aspects of people, even along their journey in creating dolls, you know, because you're not just a art doll maker, you're not just a doll maker or a doll creator, you know, you're a person, you're a human being. You have, you know, and so part of your journey is always, you know, for most of us, it's about, you know, expressing our humanity and expressing us through the things that we do. And we get to see those journeys and we get to meet those people because they do dolls and because they create art.
Hmm.
And we really appreciate, you know, you bringing your amazing talent, you know, to showcase and to talk about, you know, with us in the doll world. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's
Your unique
wonderful.
podcast. So
Thank you.
unique.
Well, thank you. We want to keep it that way.
Definitely.
Want that to be something that and this, you know, in a way, this is our legacy. So there you go.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
it is our
And it all comes
legacy.
from a passion of something you both love.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
you just explored it. And wherever, you know, the journey was taking you.
Yeah, I feel very blessed to be on this journey.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, we do. It's been good. So we're excited. We have no idea where it's going. We have plans and visions, but you know, the
Right.
universe has its own plans and visions. So.
It sure does.
So, Miss Valerie, this has been an amazing, wonderful interview. It has touched us on so many levels, you know, speaking to so many levels of truth. We would like to know how people can reach out to you if they want to purchase dolls from you or know where you're going to be doing shows. How do they find you?
Um, my new website was just launched like 2 days ago at
Okay, cool.
brooklyndollworks.com. And
Okay.
on the website is my blog. Everything's in one place now. They have a
Okay.
blog over here and emails over there. So everything's in one place. It's brooklyndollworks.com.
Okay.
Contact me. My shop is on there, plus the gallery of historical pieces. There's going to be a members only page also, so if you sign up for membership, you get a separate newsletter and you get free gifts and discounts and stuff. So it's all on one place now. So,
Okay, that's
Nice.
beautiful.
yeah,
That is
you know,
really
plus you know, I'm
nice.
on Instagram and Facebook, but that's Brooklyn Dollworks. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
And it's all everywhere, or is it Brooklyn Dollworks one word?
Yep. One word,
Okay. Okay, cool.
pretty much. Yep.
Okay. So it's been, like I said, it's been wonderful. It's great to meet you. And
You too.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm
And
honored to be on the podcast
And we're honored to have you on our
with all the
podcast.
big guys,
exactly.
all the big bakers.
The big,
Byron Mars.
I know, I
I do
love
have
Byron
some of-
Lars. That is
I have
my,
some of his clothes in my closet. So
Oh,
oh yeah, I love Byron Lars. But
yeah.
Yeah.
he's my
And-
favorite doll.
Yeah.
person.
He was lovely to meet in person. I mean, not to interview.
it's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's beautiful. It's beautiful souls.
Yeah,
We've
and you
met some
guys
beautiful
did
souls.
my friend Joe too, Joe McPhail.
Oh, Joe
Yes.
was another. Yes.
Oh, he had a good show. Oh my gosh, he's
Yes.
such a
Yeah.
Renaissance man. He
Yes.
is.
What a
He
guy.
is.
What a guy.
Golly, he knows so much stuff. I was like, wow.
So yeah, I thought I knew a lot.
I know.
And then the man has built a harp. He built a harp.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw his harps.
Like
Wow.
jewelry. On his
I
doll,
know.
his Maryland doll, he built jewelry. Like
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah,
Dude.
he's really so talented too.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very
I was like,
cool.
I'm like this. And I was there when he got into Miata. So
Oh, nice.
Are you a member of NIATA?
no,
Okay,
Not
I didn't
yet.
know if you were.
put it
Okay.
that way, not yet.
Not
Okay,
yet.
not yet. That's
You're on the
right.
path to
Yeah.
NIATA, and we know you're going to get there. And as soon as you do, just come back and we'll come and do our interview to celebrate your entrance into
Yep.
NIATA.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you again, Miss Valerie, for
All
being
right.
here
You're
on
very
Hidden
welcome.
Dollworks
Good
with
Yes.
us.
getting
It's been
Candy.
So
beautiful.
wonderful to meet you. Okay,
Yes.
thanks so
You
much.
too.
Okay.
Okay,
You're welcome.
bye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.